Welcome back. So it's a community reporter takeover here at Homebase. We decided that we weren't getting enough FaceTime, so we've packaged Seth up, stuck him in a box somewhere, and the stage is ours.
All right.
So first up on the schedule, we were going to go and sit on the comfy sofas and do a little bit of reporter discussion time about what it's like being first time here at Ignite. Obviously, now we've got our shiny stage. So I'm going to hand over to Amy, who's going to talk to Tony and myself, because we are Ignite virgins, and try and impart a bit of experience and the voice of reason. So Amy, over to you.
I don't know that I would put me particularly as the voice of reason. I'm kind of known as one of the crazy ones in the community. I'll do my best to stay tame right now. So, how the heck is it that this is your first time at Ignite? Like, this is not okay. Explain yourselves.
Well,
You go first, Rick.
so this is where I go. I usually go to the dev conference. I go to the other one at the start of the year, even though technically I'm an IT pro, just because of the kind of things that I used to do. As a result, I'm really struggling with the scale. But Tony, what about you? Why haven't you been here before?
Well, like you said, I'm more of a dev, so I typically go to the dev conferences. I used to think that Ignite was just for the business people. That this was where CIOs came, this was where CTOs came. But now that I'm here, I see that that is totally not true. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think perception is everything with Ignite. I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding that Ignite itself might be just a marketing conference. And I think that you can slide IT pros into that because we'll tolerate a bit of marketing so that we can get our technology. But I think it's even harder to shove marketing at developers. But here you are at Ignite, seeing that this is a totally technical conference. There's tons of community. There's literally no excuse to not make connections and not learn and grow from this. Gosh, I remember the first Ignite I went to was in Chicago, my hometown, and it was just drinking from the fire hose. Just every second of every day, I have to go to this session and this session, and the McCormick Center where it was at is enormous.
Okay.
So I was running and I was going as fast as I can. Do you guys feel like you have to run, or are you good with how things are laid out
Oh my
here?
goodness, I've gotten lost like 5 times.
Okay.
I remember yesterday I was trying to find the podcast area. Whew. I ended up at the south. I had to go back the way I came and then start making my way to the west. It was crazy. This place is enormous. I think I've gotten a lot of exercise. I've walked a total of 2 hours just to find my way around.
So the thing that I found quite helpful, because we're staying in the Hyatt, I think all of us.
Yeah, thankfully.
I'm making sure I always come over exactly the same sky bridge, so I start in exactly the same position, because then I've got some familiarity to go, okay, I want to go left to go to the sessions, I want to go right to go to the community stage. If you pick me up and move me around and blindfold me, I'm going to be so lost. But I think that sort of find somewhere that's a beacon, that's your bearing, that you return to.
I think earlier for me, locating a sky bridge was actually my challenge. But I think I kind of sorted that out now.
Yeah, and speaking of being lost, Ignite is one of those conferences where you can absolutely feel lost in the crowd because it's big. Microsoft has combined a lot of communities into one to present this conference. And I think the biggest bit of advice that I can give you guys, first and foremost, is that if you aren't on Twitter, get on Twitter. Find the hashtags for the technology that's relevant for you and
Yeah.
start following that. Start seeing who's tweeting about that, who's tweeting about it the most. You'll be able to separate the bots and the spammers and people who tweet too much, that have nothing better to do. But you'll start to find the leaders in your community. And it's just kind of like around here with the signage. You kind of look for the information that's super useful and you start to follow that. And that's exactly what I did. And that's how I ended up on this path and eventually became MVP, was going to that first Ignite, drinking from the fire hose and connecting on Twitter. Is there anything that you've had on this first day so far you've been like, man, I wish someone would have told me about this before I came?
So interesting.
That's a very interesting question.
Yes, I mean, for me, ironically, not really, because this is just like somebody took Build and got like a bicycle pump and just made it bigger. But I mean, Tony, what about you? I mean, one question I've got is, I mean, we've done a great job today of keeping
Yeah.
in touch via the chat app that we've got, and we've got one point to meet up. If you're here with a group, what do you normally do at conferences like this, when you're trying to, meet your buddies and meet the guys that are here from the
Well,
company
typically
group?
the last time I was at a conference, somewhat big, it was basically Twitter. It was like, hey guys, anyone from XYZ location around, let's meet up at this area so we can, just have a chat and say hello. So yeah, for me, in terms of stuff that I wish someone had told me about was, yeah, it's big. It's really big. I've been walking all around the expo floor. There's so much stuff to go through there, and I have this bag like filled with like swag, and
Yes.
I'm just so glad I brought extra luggage just for swag. So,
Yes, we're still disappointed that you didn't collect swag for us.
well, I did, but you guys are gonna have to pay for it because I did all the legwork. Okay, you all don't get to sit here pretty while I do all the work.
Let's give some advice for the attendees at home because they're obviously pretty jealous that they're not getting the swag. So one of the things that I think is really important to understand is, yes, Ignite is recorded. So I think that makes it a little bit difficult. Should I go? Should I not? But if you're here attending, first of all, don't feel like you have to rush to every single session because they are recorded. The Hangout Center is right behind us, so you can catch as many sessions as you want right behind us. But then again, if you're home, you're not going to miss out on this. You can watch the sessions. They're posted on Channel 9 24 hours afterwards with the slide decks from all the presenters. So you can go through that session again if you're here, or you can catch it for the first time if you missed it the next day. You can get the technical tips. You can get in touch with the speakers also. So there really isn't any excuse to not just totally drink from the fire hose when you're at this conference.
Well, they don't get swags.
They don't get swag. No, they don't. But if their coworkers are nice enough, they'll bring it back for them.
Okay.
That's true. Okay, so I'm being told that apparently we have some VT to run. I've always wanted to say that. Run VT, Errol. So Amy and Tony, thank you very much. Hopefully we're going to hang around and keep yabbering between us as we switch between our pre-recordings. And speaking of pre-recordings, earlier on, Tracy was talking to Naomi Moneypenny about the data side of business and how important it is today. So let's take a look. Run VT, Errol.
Hello everyone, and it's Trace here, and I've got Naomi with me. Hi there, Naomi.
It's so great to see you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Now, Naomi, I've got some really cool questions for you today, okay? I'm going to put her on the spot. It's going to happen. Me and my intern, Sheep Brahm, it's going to happen. So I was wondering, if I think of the jobs we do in life, you know, where we've come from, the different things we've worked with, the creative stuff we've done, I started thinking, I wonder if that impacts the journey we have into life, okay? And then I was thinking, I mean, your session, SharePoint Spaces, that's tomorrow at 2 p.m., right? That's right. And in the Hyatt Regency in the Orlando Ballroom, you got to be there. It's going to be a pretty cool session. So that session, SharePoint Spaces, I think got me thinking, I wonder if you being an astrophysicist has got anything to do with that?
Maybe just a little bit. Satya is very famous for saying that AI, mixed reality, and quantum technology are the three things that are going to make the most impact in our digital workplace. So when you think about that, we can think about artificial intelligence, which is a lot of the Microsoft Search work that I'm doing right now. Thinking about that. And then obviously mixed reality with SharePoint Spaces, where we're democratizing mixed reality so that anybody can build mixed reality environments with 2D or 3D content and bringing that together. So really transforming the immersive experience that you can have with your digital workplace. And then of course quantum computing is still very much on the horizon, but a lot of the great stuff that we've been working on there is really helping to inform other models that can be used right now.
So that's a yes then. So I mean, that's just incredible, and I mean, this just makes me so exciting about the other things we're talking about. There's so many incredible sessions that you're going to be delivering, and I mean, I'm so sorry that I can't be attending them all. I'm so psyched about it, but I'm starting to think about something. So a couple of words are coming up. Okay, so humanizing technology and anticipatory computing.
That's right.
Now I have to first just say something. Yes, Mom, I just used real big words on camera. I practiced all week on that, okay? My mom's not going to recognize me on camera. Don't you? That sounds like sci-fi to me, okay? And like very futuristic. But But we know that that's all about people, right? So I'd like you to just tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So when we think about democratizing technology, it's really about removing those barriers that we have with computers or computers in general. So what we want to do is really make seamless computing happen as an organization. We want to have the experiences that you have to really get the technology out of the way so you can just get your work done. And it's also thinking about it in a very people-centric way. A lot of technology in the past, we've had to deploy it because that was the limit of the technology. So people had to adapt around computers effectively, or the way processes were built. And now what you can really see is that we have almost endless technology, right? The technology options are incredible. And so now the burden is really thinking about what experiences make the most sense from both a people process and a business.
Millions of people absolutely adore you.
I love them all too. How's that? But when I think about that, it is about having one amazing community to really help each other. So whether it's the tech community, whether it's in the SharePoint Saturdays, Office 365 Saturdays, we've got SQL Saturdays, we've got amazing communities and user groups across the world. And I always encourage people to connect, to network as much as you can. Even if you can't be here at Ignite, you can experience it through the tech community. We'll have Ignite on tour as well coming up in the fall, lots of different cities across the world. So lots of opportunities. Connect and engage with all your colleagues and across your companies, and it's really helpful to sort of think about your career directions for the future.
Absolutely love it. And I'm going to wrap up with a word from Africa. It's Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is about community. Ubuntu is I am who I am because of who we all are. I love you. I'm so glad I did this interview
I love you,
with
it's
you.
awesome.
Aww.
Thank you.
Welcome back. This is so cool. We've locked Steph out. We've taken over the asylum. Amy, Antony, and I are just going to talk about whatever we feel like for the next few minutes. So guys, what do we want to talk about now? We've talked about first timers. Do we want to talk about what's really, really cool that we've seen today, maybe?
There's so much stuff that I'm super excited about this week. There's so much new technology coming. There's so much swag.
I'm gone for
out
like
that
5
I
minutes.
have to get, and so many parties that I need to go to.
Well, for me, the swag spot.
What's going on
Def-
over here? I've gone for like 5 minutes.
Who let you out, man?
This is awkward.
Dude, you didn't wear the tie. You know, I just kind of figured.
I was doing other things, okay? I had a really big lunch.
Well, timekeeping's important, you know?
That's true. That's true. So how's everybody doing?
It's
Well,
pretty
good. How you doing?
Fantastic. Did you get me any swag at the
Oh,
place?
yeah, I got you. You're gonna pay
doesn't-
for it.
Doesn't sound very convincing. I mean, he's like, oh, yeah, I got all this.
Yeah, definitely. I got
Socks for you.
I got your Twitter followers.
you. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so what are we going to next? What are you all talking about? I've been out of the loop a little bit.
We've just been talking about what we think about Ignite so far.
Fantastic. So are we going to go to like a tape or something now, or are we just still talking?
Apparently so. Yeah, I get to do the intro, darling. I mean, how cool is that? So
We don't need you anymore, Seth.
let me read the tape, man.
Okay.
So how cool is this? Yesterday I was just milling around, and we were just about to do an intro into a skit that we were talking we were going to talk about, and all of a sudden the weirdest things happened. So I ran into an old friend, Buck Woody. Let's roll the tape and see what happened when I ran into Buck Woody. And they've let me loose on the show floor here already. Hold on, one mo. What the? Hey, what are you doing here? Come here, Buck. Come here. Look at this. They lock him in a box. I mean, I don't know. So, ladies and gentlemen, Buck Woody.
I
take a
have
seat,
my own
bud.
microphone. I usually carry it with me.
That's
you know,
quite
just
cool.
in case I get interviewed or find somebody that wants to talk about artificial intelligence.
So you've got a couple of minutes. Let's talk about that then. So you used to work in data, Buck. What are you doing in AI?
I did. Yeah, no, I started back when we didn't even have computers. We just yelled zeros and ones at each other. I mean, it was a long time ago. And then I started out on mainframes and then went to Unix. And, you know, within Unix, I was over in the UK and worked a lot with databases and eventually joined the SQL Server team here at Microsoft.
I have heard of that product.
Yeah, it's a pretty good product. And then we've actually baked AI, artificial intelligence, into a lot of products, including SQL Server. So what do you know about artificial intelligence?
I don't know much about artificial intelligence. Tell me.
Oh, interesting. Well, the way it works is this. You just throw a bunch of data at some algorithms, and then the algorithms walk across and find predictive or categorical patterns, and they do predictions using vision or hearing or language, things that you and I might use.
So hang on.
Yeah.
So you said data.
Yeah, lots
Right.
of data.
So where are you getting this data from?
Well, all over. I mean, you're going to get it from your internal systems. You're going to go out to websites and grab data.
No. You can't do that, Buck. There's legislation in the UK where we have this thing called GDPR. You can't just take my data and use it. I need to secure it. I need to give it to you. I need to wash it and clean it.
Data security.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. You do come up with a lot of data, and I need a lot of it to make the artificial algorithms work. So I guess to do that, we do need to think a lot more about, I don't know, maybe data sourcing. And then how would we ingest something like that, making sure it's secure? How would we do that?
I don't know. So I'm an Azure guy, so I'd like to use Azure AD. Can you support Azure AD for my data sources?
So Active Directory in Azure, sure. I mean, that's not a problem at all. When we bring things into blob storage or data warehouse or Cosmos DB, we can use those constructs with Active Directory all the time, not a problem. So that's a good way to think about it. Are there any sort of maybe some encryption types that I can use inside Azure Storage?
That would be good if we can use encryption at rest in our SQL Azure or SQL Storage. That'd be pretty good.
Okay, good stuff.
What about if I'm giving you data for your training? Can that be short-lived? That once you finish training, you give me it back, we get rid of it?
So yeah, you know what's kind of interesting now that you mention that is the training data that I use for my algorithms isn't sent out anywhere.
Okay.
So I could actually, as I think about it here, I could train on premises or in Azure on data that is not shown to anyone else. So for instance, when you learn to read, you get lots and lots of words and dictionaries and books. But once you've learned, you don't have to carry all that around with you. You now know how to read. That's the way artificial intelligence works. So perhaps if I think about training my data securely, then I can produce the algorithm outside of that secure environment, and it still works for the predictions I need to think about. That's a great point. What do you suggest that we should do to sort of make sure everybody gets this word?
I think we should ask our friends, the producers, to put this short video into the Ignite stream. How about that, Boogie? You up for that?
Could be very useful. Maybe get some people to actually talk together. What do you think?
That sounds like it would be a good idea. I bet there are sessions at Ignite that people can actually watch to learn about these things. Yeah?
I bet there are. And you know, if a guy from the UK and a guy from the US who travels in a box can figure out how to work together, I think anyone can.
Well, buddy, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Buck, but I'm sorry, I found you in the box. I'm going to have to put you back in the box,
no,
man.
Don't put me back in the box.
Back in the box, man.
Not in the box.
Thank you. Thanks, all.
All right, we are back. They finally let me come back on stage. So I'm pretty happy to be back. I'm sorry I was a little late, everybody. There were some things I had to do. So how you doing, Tony?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Did you like the expo hall? How was that?
Oh my gosh, there was so much stuff over there.
Yeah. Did you walk around a lot? Or
Yeah, I moved around a lot, like 3 times. I covered the entire hall, like left and right. I did see some of my friends there.
Oh,
from
fantastic.
Microsoft, so I just sort of hung with them for a bit.
That's awesome.
And the swags were so easy to collect.
So the other question I have for you is, did you find any more husbands?
So I have to explain myself a little bit.
Yeah,
I do have a
So
husband.
the answer is no.
I also have a conference/work husband who is Harjit,
Uh-huh.
who has been on the show with
yeah,
you
of course,
as well.
of course.
So I'm a little bit booked in the husband department.
Oh, right, right. So where were you? Were wandering over here and over there. Tell us where you went.
So I have booth duty as well as a Microsoft 365 speaker. So I've been spending a lot of time in the modern desktop booth talking to people about Windows 10, Intune, and Config Manager, and also Autopilot. So it's been a great day talking to just different organizations to see where they're at with their Windows 10 migration, or understanding Autopilot and the new features, or really how to make that shift to, I'm only using Config Manager to now start using co-management. So it's been a lot of fun today, getting to do a lot of different things.
So I don't know anything about Autopilot.
Okay,
Help a brother out.
so here we go.
Here we go.
Autopilot is not replacing Config Manager for deployment.
What's Config Manager?
So Config Manager or Configuration Manager is a systems management platform. It is the systems management platform,
nice.
despite what any of these vendors may say.
Okay. Okay.
So Autopilot simplifies device registration so that either the OEM or you can take a device from an unknown state to a known state, meaning the first time it boots up and it walks through Ubi, which is that out-of-box experience where it says, hey, I'm Cortana, it already knows that it belongs to an organization, which isn't anything that you ever had before Autopilot. You had to go through Ubi. You had to do a custom image, for example. You had to join it to a domain before it knew who it belonged to.
Right. I see. So like whenever I open my computer, the first experience that the user gets, that's what Autopilot does.
So Autopilot allows the device to know, hey, I have to check into this tenant. I belong to this organization. I belong to Microsoft, or I belong to company A, or I belong to Contoso. So the minute it gets an internet connection, it already knows where it should go for registration.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for holding the fort. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, I'm going to take this stage back from you, okay? We're going to show you a preview from Microsoft Mechanics this morning. Let's take a look at this video.
Hey Seth, I was just heading back to home base, and I was just getting the good feedback, and everyone is fired up, good energy here. And I walked by the Microsoft Mechanics Live Studios. So you got that right. They're basically recording and streaming Microsoft Mechanics show right here on spot at Microsoft Ignite. And what happens is that they basically fire and shoot 15-minute videos with big names at Microsoft. And today we have Jeff Snover and Jeff Holland as well. And they're very good shows talking about Windows Server 2019 and AI and IoT and a lot of cool stuff. You know what? It's not very crowded right now because there's no show running yet, but it's going to be super packed later. And it makes a lot of sense to be super packed here and to take place here at these comfortable benches, because not only do you get a chance to watch some very, very good shows, but on top of that, every single attendee who attends these shows in person also get a chance to win a Microsoft Surface Go. So it's an awesome opportunity. Seth, back to you.
All right. Hi, Jen. I hear you're a data whisperer.
Yes, I
We're like
am.
my peoples. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. I'm so passionate about all things data. I have been all of my career, really.
Fantastic. And I hear you're going to ask me questions, which is going to be kind of awkward about deep learning. Is that right?
I am, but I'm looking forward to the
Cool.
opportunity to interview you, because you do such a great job with everyone else.
Oh, you're so
thank you.
nice.
No, not at all. not
Now
at
I'm going to screw it up, okay? Dang it. All right, so what do you got for me?
Well, what I'd really like to know about is deep learning.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm particularly passionate about this subject. It was something I did 20 years ago. That's the point at which you're supposed to say, Jennifer, you don't look that old.
No, you don't. It's 20 years ago. You were 2 years old when you started? I don't understand. Nice.
But it was so fascinating for me because I put AI into large enterprises, and then it became not trendy. Then I had to wait 20 years to be trendy again. So now I'm trendy.
Oh, of course.
Great. Now we're cool.
Yeah.
So what's the thought is, you can tell me about some of the cool things that Microsoft are doing in that space. I would love to know.
That's a really good question. It turns out that AI, unlike what most people think, is not some dark magic. It's a bunch of maths, as you would say it in the UK, because in America we only have one math. It's really funny that way. But the cool thing about deep learning is I went to grad school and learned all about SVMs during like this AI winter.
Yes.
And then what happened is there was a resurgence right after that where deep learning came about, where because neural networks are not new. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
they've been
right.
around for 30, 40 years,
Yes.
but we just didn't have the computers to actually execute them appropriately. And so then once the neural networks started becoming more powerful, they started learning more about how to make them deeper. They started looking at really interesting configurations of these things, of neural networks. And then the marketing people decided that after n number of layers in a neural network, it became deep learning. But science also decided that it was really good at specific tasks. And so
Yes.
that's when we had this resurgence. For example, I'm really good at computer vision, where the computers can see and understand what's in a picture through deep learning. And I think that's the coolest bit, that these mathematical models have been able to be powerful enough to look at pictures and recognize, hey, that's a dog. And it's kind of changed, it's revolutionized the way we look at AI, and particularly deep learning.
Yeah, don't you think it feels as if it's the point at which the industry is converging? Because you've got AI, then you've got the cloud, which really powers the AI.
Yeah.
And then you've finally got that impression that organizations finally understand how important their data is.
Sure.
So I wondered what you thought about that, really, particularly with the Microsoft Cloud. 'Cause
Okay.
It seems like it's such a great box of goodies in there.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, released at Ignite, this Ignite, we are releasing a new, the next version of Azure Machine Learning Services. There's an SDK, because like if you're running these things on a machine, like you're gonna tie up your machine.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, if you're working in it with a group of people and you run these things on your machine, like you're not gonna know that I tried a convolutional neural network with n layers deep and use this alpha learning rate and drop out. You're not gonna know, but I'm gonna know. And so if I'm gonna transfer my work over to you, I can't just give you my hard drive. So there's the question of running the things, there's a question of sharing what's going on. And now with that Azure Machine Learning Services, there's a cool thing, and there's a talk tomorrow if you wanna come to it, or we'll put a recording of it up, where we talk about this notion of an Azure Machine Learning workspace. And in the workspace, you can define compute targets that could be clusters of ginormous machines that everyone in the workspace has access to, number one. Number two, you can define data sources. And the data sources in the workspace allow me and you to share the same data and run the same experiments. No longer, if I'm like a cheating data scientist, will I be able to use data that makes me look good.
Yes.
We're all using this.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, we're using the same data. And then the last thing is that you can run experiments, and because that's what you're doing. Like people don't know this, but basically, data science is like this sad, never-ending line of failure until you get to something that really works, and it takes a while to get there. But how do you know the trail? And so now with Azure Machine Learning experiments, you can create an experiment and look at the history of all of the experiments you run, what learning rates you used, if you use any dropout rate, what was going on, if you were using like momentum, like what kind of momentum, like the two different ways of doing momentum. And so now you can keep track of that. And so those are three things in experimentation, and that's only half of it. How do we get this thing actually out to deployment? We have a way of now versioning models, like the output, like for example, if you're using TensorFlow, it's a protobuf file, or if you're using like an ONNX file, that's the output, or something else, like a PTH file, I think is what PyTorch uses. Now you can version those things so that everyone has access to them.
Yes.
And then you can upgrade those models into images, and those images have the execution environment as well as how to score the model.
Yes.
And then finally, you can push the model out to deployment. And so now with Azure Machine Learning Services, you have an end-to-end package. And you don't need to know anything about Docker or images or that kind of thing, so that when you're doing your data science, you can build it in a way that's comfortable for you as a data scientist, but in the back comfortable for the dev to later take that into an Azure pipeline, for example.
Yes, and I think the great, fantastic next piece is actually mobilizing that app, because what you can do is using something like Xamarin or something like that, create an app, which I did with as part of a charity recently. Part of a charity, Teens in AI. So we're trying to introduce AI to the next generation. So what we did there was build a model in AI, and they built a mobile app that called that model, and the model was the engine that does the analytics, and then we pushed everything up to the mobile device. And I think it's just fantastic. I wish I could live all my career again and do the same things. I don't know about you, Seth.
That's cool. Well, thanks so much. This has been the funnest interview I've ever had today.
Oh, me too.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks.
Now we have Alex out in the field with Jeff Holland talk all about how to go serverless. Let's take a look.
That's right, Seth. I was just watching the previous session here at Microsoft Mechanics with Jeff Holland about intelligent edge devices, and I just had to snag Jeff and ask him about serverless and IoT devices and whatnot. So first, Jeff, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Jeff Holland. I'm a senior program manager on the Azure Functions team. Been at Microsoft for about 5 years. This is probably like my 3rd or 4th Ignite. Love coming here. It's such a ton of energy from everyone.
It is, definitely is. Now, Jeff, I'm a strong believer that we are past the early adopters phase for serverless. However, we still have a lot of companies which are reluctant to go full serverless because of the lack of control. Now, what can you tell me? Why should IT companies care about serverless?
Yeah, it's a really good question. What I always like to focus on when I'm working with customers who are either far in their cloud journey or just getting started, serverless really allows you a way to develop and ship applications much faster. So the reason that I think IT companies should care is we're constantly being bombarded with like these new business requirements. You've got to go ship applications, you've got to do it faster, we have deadlines, we have competing forces, all of these things. And it's difficult to keep up with that, especially with the pace that technology is going. So when you bring in serverless, what you're really saying to IT is, all of these other things that you've always had to manage, you don't have to manage them anymore. All you need to do is write your application code, then you can publish it to the cloud, and Azure will take care of all the other things in that to-do list. You just focus on your code yourself. So I think the biggest reason is it allows IT to ship and build applications much faster to keep their businesses competitive and to keep their employees happy.
I completely agree with that. And let me paraphrase on one of the things you said, which was the pace of IT devices. Now, on top of that, I'm really wondering, what do you think at this point about the ever-growing amount of data?
Yeah, this is actually one of the good things about serverless, because we're in a world where we expect data from everything, and more things are getting added with data.
Sorry for this.
Oh.
Seth, we have to wrap it up. Seth, the illustrious, the incredible Jeff Hollan, back to you.
Thank you so much. The next blocks of general sessions are going to begin soon. It's time to choose which general session you want to watch. And don't forget that the networking doesn't end when Ignite does. Keep the conversation going using hashtag MSIgnite. See you after the general sessions.